Welcome to our deep dive today. It's into the world of Ubisoft.
Oh, Ubisoft.
Yeah. It's kind of fascinating to see a company, responsible for these massive franchises like Assassin's Creed,
Right.
Far Cry. They're kind of facing some pretty intense challenges right now.
Yeah.
Um, and we've got this document here. It's titled Ubisoft's Controversies and Challenges, and it really lays out kind of all of the issues.
All of them.
Yeah, we're talking workplace scandals, accusations of just stale game design, financial woes,
All 9 yards.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
So the big question is, can Ubisoft overcome all of this and kind of remain an industry leader?
Right.
Or is this, the beginning of their downfall?
Is this it for them?
Yeah.
That's what we're here to unpack today.
I think what's so interesting about this, too, is just the sheer size and influence of Ubisoft.
You're right.
These aren't just games.
Right.
These are cultural touchstones for a lot of players.
Yeah.
So their struggles really do raise questions about the entire gaming landscape. Absolutely. So whether you are a diehard fan, you're an investor, or you're just curious about how these corporate giants navigate these troubled waters, this deep dive is for you.
I think a good place to start is Act 1, the storm brews.
Okay.
This is really where we see the internal and external pressures start to kind of build up on Ubisoft.
Yeah, and it all kicks off with a bombshell.
Oh, yeah.
The 2020 wave of misconduct allegations.
That rocked the company.
Yeah, these weren't just whispers. We're talking serious accusations.
Serious stuff.
Of harassment, discrimination, a real culture of silence.
Yeah, it went far beyond a few bad apples, I think.
Yeah.
The accusations pointed to systemic issues within Ubisoft's structure.
Right.
And it led to the departure of several high-ranking figures.
Yeah.
Including Chief Creative Officer Serge Haskowet.
I mean, that's not just a PR headache.
No.
That signals, deep-rooted problems.
Deep problems.
And the source material really emphasizes the impact this had on employee morale.
Right.
Public perception. It makes you think about the human cost behind these massive games we play.
Absolutely. And while Ubisoft has said that they've implemented new policies and they're trying to reform their workplace culture, there's still a lot of skepticism around whether or not these changes are enough.
Yeah. Are they happening quickly enough?
Exactly.
It remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Now, alongside these internal struggles, Ubisoft also started facing a growing problem: franchise fatigue.
Yeah.
Think about it. How many times can you climb a tower and unlock a map before it starts to feel repetitive?
Right. Like you've done it all before.
Exactly.
And they're over-reliant on that open-world formula, especially when you couple that with their push for annual releases. It started to backfire.
Yeah.
You see this in Far Cry,
Right.
where each entry feels like the last one but with a new coat of paint.
Yeah.
The source even mentions how fans specifically called out Assassin's Creed Odyssey for feeling bloated with repetitive side quests.
It's like that saying, familiarity breeds contempt. Gamers started yearning for something new,
Right.
something innovative, and Ubisoft just wasn't delivering.
Which leads us to another symptom of these deeper issues: delays and cancellations.
Ooh, yeah.
Remember Skull and Bones?
Oh, yeah.
Almost a decade in development.
Yeah.
Still no release date in sight.
It's crazy.
This speaks to bigger problems like unclear project direction and spiraling development costs.
Right. It's frustrating for gamers who are eagerly waiting.
For sure.
And it likely indicates deeper financial troubles beneath the surface.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So we've got these internal struggles, we've got this franchise fatigue,
Yes.
and now we're seeing these delays, these cancellations.
Not a good sign.
What happens next?
Well, that's where we get into Act 2.
Okay.
The cracks widen.
Yeah.
This is where those internal struggles we just talked about start to show up in Ubisoft's games and how players perceive them.
Okay, so like the rubber meets the road. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We see how these behind-the-scenes issues directly affect the player experience.
Right. And one of the biggest shifts in recent years has been this rise of live service games.
Oh, yeah.
These are games designed to be continuously updated with new content to keep players engaged for the long haul.
Right.
Sounds good in theory,
Oh, for sure.
but the problem often lies in the execution.
Right.
Live service games are frequently monetized through microtransactions.
Right. Those little in-game purchases for cosmetic items, XP boosts, or sometimes even gameplay advantages.
Yeah, and this is where the backlash really starts to bubble up.
Yeah.
Gamers feel nickel and dimed,
Mm-hmm.
like they're being asked to constantly shell out money.
Even after paying full price for a game.
Exactly.
And while this model is utilized by a lot of companies,
All right.
Ubisoft's approach, as highlighted in the source material, was particularly aggressive.
Uh-huh. Remember Ghost Recon Breakpoint?
Oh, yeah.
Fans felt bombarded with microtransactions.
Even for basic gameplay elements that felt like they should have been included from the start.
Yeah, Breakpoint really became the poster child for everything gamers were frustrated with when it came to Ubisoft's live service strategy.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just the microtransactions either.
Yeah.
The game also suffered from a buggy launch.
Right.
Repetitive gameplay, just a general lack of polish.
It felt like a missed opportunity for a beloved franchise.
A good time.
Yeah, and the source really digs into how Breakpoint's failure wasn't just about one bad game.
Right.
It pointed to broader issues with quality control
Yep.
and a disconnect between what Ubisoft was offering and what players actually wanted.
Exactly. One poorly received game can be brushed off, but multiple flops in a row.
Right.
That suggests deeper systemic problems within the company.
And all of this contributed to this growing sense of frustration among longtime fans who felt ignored by Ubisoft.
Absolutely.
It's like their feedback was falling on deaf ears.
Totally.
Despite, voicing concerns about bugs,
Mm-hmm.
repetitive gameplay, broken promises.
Right.
Now, the source does offer some potential solutions for Ubisoft to rebuild that fractured relationship with its community.
We do.
More open communication, transparency about the development process,
Like that.
and maybe even utilizing public test servers where players can provide direct feedback. It
Right.
could go a long way.
Yeah, it's all about rebuilding that trust,
Right.
showing players that their voices are heard.
But that requires more than just words.
For sure.
Ubisoft needs to demonstrate that they genuinely care about the player experience.
Yeah, through tangible actions.
Right. Now, all of this is happening against the backdrop of a company facing some very real financial challenges.
Uh-oh.
This brings us to Act 3, the Crossroads, where the stakes get even higher for Ubisoft.
So we've got all these internal struggles. We've got the franchise fatigue. We've got the delays, the cancellations.
Yeah, where do we even go from here?
Well, now we get into Act 2. The cracks widen.
Ooh, ominous.
Right. This is where those internal struggles we just talked about, they really start to show up in Ubisoft's games.
Okay.
And how players perceive them.
So it's like the rubber meets the road.
Exactly.
We see how these issues behind the scenes are affecting the player experience. Okay, so one of the biggest shifts in recent years has been this rise of live service games.
Oh, yeah.
These are games that are designed to be continuously updated with new content to keep players engaged for the long haul.
Right.
Which sounds great in theory.
Sure does.
But the problem often lies in the execution.
Yeah.
Because live service games were so often monetized through microtransactions.
Right. Those little in-game purchases.
Yeah.
For cosmetic items, XP boosts, or sometimes even gameplay advantages.
And this is where the backlash really starts to bubble up.
It got.
Because gamers feel nickel and dime,
Yeah.
like they're being asked to constantly shell out money.
Even after paying full price for the game.
Exactly.
And while this model is used by a lot of companies,
Right.
Ubisoft's approach, as highlighted in the source material, was particularly aggressive.
Right. I mean, remember Ghost Recon Breakpoint? Oh, yeah.
Fans felt bombarded with microtransactions.
For even basic gameplay elements that felt like they should have been included from the start.
Right. Breakpoint really became the poster child
Totally.
for everything gamers were frustrated with when it came to Ubisoft's live service strategy.
It did. And it wasn't just the microtransactions either.
Right.
The game also suffered from a buggy launch.
Right.
Repetitive gameplay, just a general lack of polish.
It felt like a missed opportunity for a beloved franchise.
A big one.
Yeah. And the source really digs into how Breakpoint's failure wasn't just about one bad game.
Right.
It pointed to these broader issues with quality control and a disconnect between what Ubisoft was offering and what players actually wanted.
Exactly. One poorly received game can be brushed off.
Right.
But when you have multiple flops in a row,
Yeah.
that suggests deeper systemic problems within the company.
And all of this really contributed to this growing sense of frustration among longtime fans who felt ignored by Ubisoft.
It's like their feedback was falling on deaf ears. Despite voicing concerns about bugs, repetitive gameplay, and broken promises.
Right.
Now, the source does offer some potential solutions for Ubisoft to rebuild that fractured relationship with its community.
Okay, what are they?
Well, more open communication,
I like that.
transparency about the development process, and maybe even utilizing public test servers
Right.
where players can provide direct feedback.
I mean, that would go a long way.
Yeah, it's all about rebuilding that trust and showing players that their voices are heard.
Absolutely.
But that requires more than just words. Ubisoft needs to demonstrate that they genuinely care about the player experience.
Yeah, through tangible actions.
Right. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of a company facing some very real financial challenges. This brings us to Act 3, the Crossroads,
Here we go.
where the stakes get even higher for Ubisoft. So we've seen these internal struggles, these missteps, and it's led to these cracks in Ubisoft's foundation. Can they navigate this crossroads and emerge stronger?
Right.
Well, the source material paints a pretty stark picture of their current financial situation.
Yeah, the numbers don't look good.
Right.
Declining profits, underperforming stock rumors of cost-cutting measures.
It all points towards a company.
In a very precarious position.
And it raises a question, could Ubisoft be sold off entirely?
That's a big one.
I mean, we've seen it happen with other big players in the gaming industry recently.
For sure.
Microsoft acquiring Activision Blizzard.
Yep.
Sony scooping up Bungie.
Right.
Could Ubisoft be the next on the chopping block?
It's not just speculation either.
Really?
The source material actually names potential buyers.
Oh, wow.
Like Tencent,
Like-
Microsoft.
I mean, Ubisoft has a catalog of valuable IPs.
They do.
So it's understandable why they'd be a tempting target for these companies looking to expand their gaming empires.
Absolutely.
It'd be a strange twist of fate, though.
Yeah, how so?
This is a company that was once at the forefront of innovation in gaming, and now they might be reduced to just another asset
It's a P.
in some mega corporation's portfolio.
It really underscores how volatile the gaming industry can be.
Yeah, and it's not just about acquisitions either.
Right.
Ubisoft has also been criticized for missing out on some key industry trends.
Like what?
Well, while competitors were investing in VR and cloud gaming, Ubisoft seemed to be lagging behind.
Yeah, their foray into NFTs with Quartz.
Oh, yeah, that was a weird one.
It felt like a rushed attempt to capitalize on a trend that, frankly, most gamers just weren't interested in.
Yeah, and it connects to a broader issue.
What's that?
Ubisoft may be misreading the market,
Oh.
failing to adapt to these evolving player preferences.
And in a fast-paced industry like gaming, playing catch-up?
Can be fatal.
Yeah.
But, let's not get too doom and gloom here.
Okay.
The source material does acknowledge that Ubisoft still has a lot going for them.
Like what?
Talented developers, decades of experience.
Right.
And these iconic franchises that, despite some stumbles, still have dedicated fan bases.
For sure.
They're not out of the game yet.
Not yet.
Turning things around will require a Herculean effort.
It will.
But it's not impossible.
Right.
They need to address those workplace culture problems head on. Start consistently delivering high-quality games.
For sure.
And rebuild trust with their community.
It's a three-pronged strategy for survival.
And to their credit, the source does mention some potential steps they could take.
Like what?
Diversification is a big one.
Okay.
Moving beyond those established franchises, experimenting with new genres.
Interesting.
Maybe even exploring new markets.
I mean, imagine a Ubisoft battle royale.
Right.
Or a cozy farming simulator set in ancient Egypt.
It might sound outlandish,
It does.
but shaking things up could be just what they need to reignite that creative spark.
Yeah.
So where does this leave you, the listener?
That's the question.
Well, Ubisoft is at this crucial turning point.
Yeah.
Their future is uncertain, but it's not necessarily hopeless.
Oh.
They have a choice to make. Keep doing what's not working, or embrace change and chart a new course.
It's a big decision.
And the decisions they make in these coming months and years will have significant repercussions for the entire gaming landscape.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating case study
It is.
in how even the biggest companies can falter
Yeah.
if they fail to adapt.
It highlights the importance of listening to your community, taking risks, and evolving with the times. So we leave you with this. Could branching out into new genres or markets be the key to Ubisoft's revival? Or is it too late to turn the tide? We've provided the information. Now it's up to you to draw your own conclusions. Keep a close eye on Ubisoft because their next moves will have a ripple effect throughout the entire industry. This deep dive may be over, but the conversation is just beginning.